So today we're going to look at how we can take a storyboard and turn it into a finished piece of animation. I'll take you through some of the things I think about to make sure my shots are at that professional quality level. Also, this video is sponsored by Wacom. They sent me their new Movink 13 and we'll be using that throughout the process. Well, I'll highlight some of its features and I'll give you an honest opinion of it at the end of the video. Let's jump into Toon Boom and get started. Now, context is very important to understand because it tells us why the characters are acting the way that they are. And understanding that is going to give us a better performance in our animation. So in our case, we have our villain character here who's feeling overconfident. Something happens off screen and then he becomes surprised at the end of the shot. So our main goal is going to be to communicate that contrast of emotions. So this is how I set up my scene so it's ready to start animating. I have my character rig here scaled up to the correct size. And on my timeline, I've keyframed the two main pose changes in the scene. And just for good measure, if there's any extra keyframes, I store them just outside the scene length. So my scene ends on frame 40. Anything after, I keep any extra keyframes just in case I need them. Let's start blocking in our poses now. For the first stage of blocking, I'm not going to be using any deformers or drawovers. I'm just using the pieces of the rig and moving it roughly into the same position as our storyboard. Quickly, the first pose, we're going to move the arms up, move this arm down. You can scale the arm up with the peg. Roughly move the shoulders. Let's move the face a little bit screen right. Okay, just as simple as that. Let's go to our second pose. Same thing. We'll move the arms back. We'll move the shoulders up. And we'll tilt the head up a little bit as well. And there we go. Pose 2, I'm happy with that. And the reason I always start like this is because when we start using our deformers and doing our drawovers, it gives us a good foundation to keep our volumes more consistent. But we can't leave them like this. We're going to go in now with some drawovers and really clean up these key poses. It's really important that we clean up these poses now, or else they might cause a lot of headache when we go and add our in-betweens. Okay, so on a separate drawing layer, and using our storyboard and rig as a guide, we're basically just going to be doing a small gesture drawing. So the purpose of this is to just make the pieces of our rig look a little less rigid. Right, we're just fleshing out some of those curves, but sticking really close to the proportions that we blocked in before. You can even use the line tool for those longer lines. So pretty cool. That's what it looks like without the rig, and we use it as a guide to match our deformers. And you can do as many drawovers as you like until you're happy with the result. Okay, let's draw over our second pose now. So doing these drawovers on the Movink was a really great experience. So the pen design felt really comfortable in my hand, and there was virtually no lag. It was extremely responsive to my brush strokes. I was a little worried about how smooth the screen was. It's a little bit smoother than my previous tablet, but I found the soft tip of the pen was still able to grip the screen. So that combo really gave me that nice texture that I like when I'm drawing. Not quite a paper feel, but it's good enough for me. And even with the smaller screen, I found it was still very comfortable to get those broader gesture lines. Now, the Movink is fully touch, and that worried me a little bit as well because even with the iPad, you get these kind of rogue brush strokes from your fingers. But I found even without the protective glove on, the palm recognition was really, really good. So you don't get too many random finger strokes while you're trying to draw. So we have our two guides drawn. Now we can go in with our deformers, and we just match them to the lines that we drew. So we can take our time and make sure that we match the poses perfectly, right? It's really important for these key poses that we don't have any breaks in the lines of the rig. So very carefully, piece by piece, you go all the way around your rig, and you should have something that looks like this. That's our first pose. And that's our second pose. These poses look a lot better than what we had before. If you feel you can push the expressions a little bit more or push the pose a little bit more, we can also do that. But using the line tool, a really small value, we can go in and refine those features even more. It's really handy when we want to push our expressions and just plus up our shot a little bit before we start animating. So I'm going to go in and do another pass on these poses, but I want to show you something really, really cool that the Movink does. On the top left, if we touch this button here, a couple of shortcut keys pop up. And if you head into your Wacom Control Center under on-screen shortcuts, grid panels, there's a whole bunch of keypads that you can add and customize to your workspace. Right now I'm using the keypad and the pen display modifiers, so I can choose the one I want. I press launch, and you'll see it appears on your program. You can customize the position and the layout so it fits your screen however you like. I'm going to keep it like this. And I have these set up to the most common Toon Boom shortcuts that I use. Right, so we can rotate, we can press the spacebar, we can zoom in and out. These are just some of my favorites. And it's just a really cool way to customize your workspace even more with Wacom. So our second drawovers are done, and I just want to show you that subtle difference that we get. This is our first pose that we did with our original drawovers, and then this is our second pose with the refined drawover. Right, and you can see it just tightens up everything and makes it that much better. Definitely recommend, if you have time, to do at least 2 drawovers on complex poses like this. Blocking is done. That's the most important step in the animation. I'm going to break this up into 2 videos. In the next video, we're going to be finishing off the animation to this shot. So far, the Movink 13 has been holding up really well. I love the responsiveness of the pen, how it feels in your hand, and also the touchscreen hotkeys are a real game changer. Stick around, guys. We're going to finish this shot. It's going to be a lot of fun.